The Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, has launched an investigation into a data breach involving the personal details of dozens of Afghan interpreters.
More than 250 people seeking relocation to the UK, many of whom are in hiding, were mistakenly copied into an email from the Ministry of Defence, revealing their email addresses, names and profile pictures.
The whole nightmare. Now, one family who managed to escape when the Taliban took over is that of General Ghafar. He had helped to put Taliban fighters behind bars. He investigated them, he prosecuted them, he put them inside. He had to get himself and his family out pronto. Fran Lanuri has that story.
As the Taliban took control of Kabul, hundreds of thousands of people ran for their lives. Among them was General Ghafar, who played a leading role in putting Taliban fighters behind bars, for decades working alongside the US, UK and NATO forces. He knew he had to get his family to safety. They tried 3 times to get out of Kabul as chaos consumed the airport. From the UK, friend and former soldier Ash Alexander Cooper helped coordinate their escape as the deadline to leave rapidly approached. Wearing pink scarves to identify themselves to British officers and using the code word apple pie, they escaped just days after the bombing at the capital's airport.
I'm expressing my deep gratitude to the people of United Kingdom and the government of United Kingdom for saving my life and my family.
The family are currently living in a central London hotel, the starting point for building new lives in Britain, with no idea what shape that will take. One of the general's sons, Rafi, was already here, working in the Afghan embassy. He'd called everyone he knew to help rescue the future of his family, including his 16-year-old niece, Mina, who's in daily contact with friends stuck in Kabul.
Saying to me that you're very lucky to not in Kabul, because in the Kabul situation is very bad. We cannot go outside.
Their rescue may have brought them here to the heart of Westminster, but their journey through to a new life is only just beginning.
Well, joining us now, the man who helped the Ghafar family leave Kabul, Ash Alexander Cooper, a former British soldier and helicopter pilot who spent 4 years in Afghanistan. Very good morning to you.
Morning.
What a relief for that family, but it just highlights the danger to those left behind, doesn't it? Are there others you're trying to get out?
I'm not in touch with many of those that are left behind, but we know that there are a considerable number that are still there. But this family is extremely lucky. They are one of the good news stories, and they managed to leave just before the bomb struck that we all saw play out on the news. They were there the day before, and they managed to get into the evacuation centre and safely out. But it was very stressful for them and extremely terrifying for the children, some of whom as young as 6. And so the crush outside the airport was terrifying.
How did you coordinate this escape? I mean, you're 3,000 miles away.
Well, it wasn't really, it wasn't me. It was a massive team from people from America, UK, and obviously forward in Afghanistan, all pulling together to see what we could do to try and find a safer way for them to get to the airport. At the time, we knew the date was closing, the window was closing for people to leave, and the crush at the airport was just awful.
This man, General Ghafar, and his son both worked in police intelligence, responsible for tracking down Taliban fighters and making sure that they were locked away. And the Taliban took over. What might have happened to them if he hadn't got himself and his family out?
Well, he was certainly on their kill list, their hit list, and, we've seen some of the retribution play out already on our TV screen, sadly, and social media, and he was very much part of that most at high-risk group, the most vulnerable.
He'd be the top of the list, wouldn't he?
He would have absolutely been top of the list, yeah.
And we now know that there has been a data breach and more than 250 people seeking relocation to the UK. Dozens of Afghan interpreters worked with the West. Their email addresses were all copied into one email, it seems. And that's a terrible breach of their security, isn't it? I mean, they're being told, change your email address. These are people who are desperately waiting for information about how to get out.
I mean, clearly anything that puts them at any greater risk is extremely worrying, and I'm sure it was an honest mistake, but, a mistake was clearly made, and that is worrying for those left behind and obviously those around the world trying to help them get out as well.
Just on that, how difficult is it to stay in touch with people who are on the move, trying to avoid the knock on the door, have limited access to communications, presumably. How hard is it to try and coordinate their escape now?
Yeah, it's nearly impossible. It's very, very hard because they're trying to minimise how much they do communicate with the West because, we know that the Taliban are looking for evidence of people communicating with, Western forces or friends, and that can be the thing that causes them to be dragged off and taken away, never to be seen again.
Do you put any faith at all in what the Taliban have been saying since the fall of Kabul, really, which is that this time it's different? This time they're not going to be taking retribution. This time there's going to be an amnesty. They're not going after people who cooperated with the West. Everybody gets a fresh start. Do you put any faith in that at all?
I think evidence speaks for itself. We've got many, many cases of people being, women beaten, soldiers executed, interpreters executed in cold blood, and that is clearly not a new Taliban. That's exactly the playbook they had before.
Susannah said in the introduction that you spent 4 years in Afghanistan. Do you think you wasted your time there, looking back?
Personally, I don't. No, I mean, this family that we're talking about today, the children who were born after the Taliban left the first time, they wouldn't have the hopes and dreams that they do had we not given them that chance. And they've asked for nothing here other than an opportunity to live safely in peace and succeed. One, Mina, who you showed just now, she wants to be a human rights, women's rights lawyer. And the young kids, aged 6, just want to go to school and learn, to be successful. And
of course, the girls can go to school here.
Yeah, these are dreams.
In Afghanistan, they no longer can.
Absolutely, they would not have been able to do what they can do here if they'd remained at all.
That's a good answer.
Well, Ash, you've done a remarkable thing, and thank goodness that family at least are out. And I'll just fingers crossed for all of those who are, we're still trying to get away from the Taliban.
And whose cover is blown.
Yeah, exactly. Ash Alexander Cooper, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning. Right, let's have a look at the weather. Here's Laura.
What happened to summer? Proud sponsors of Good Morning Britain National Weather. Boxed